Before we get started with today's story, I'm thrilled to share that thanks to your incredible support, we've hit our first big milestone, 10,000 views. I can't thank you all enough for tuning in and being part of our community. Your support means the world to me, and I'm so glad you all are enjoying the content. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit subscribe and join our fantastic community for more Twisted True Tales. Twisted True Tales. The Blue Hole, the story of Shane Thompson. The Blue Hole, known for its crystalline waters and popular for swimming and diving, holds a bell-shaped pool extending from 80 to 130 feet in diameter, cherished as one of the prime diving spots in the American Southwest. Another tragic diving incident occurred at the Blue Hole near Santa Rosa, New Mexico, echoing a haunting history from decades past. In 1976, the caves beneath this renowned spot claimed the lives of 2 divers from Oklahoma, leading to their closure. After 40 years, a chilling repetition has unfolded. Shane Thompson, 43, was part of a select group of expert divers from the ADM Exploration Foundation. They were granted special permission for a multiple-day exploration within these caves. Thompson, a scuba diving instructor and Navy vet from San Diego, had roots in the Florida Keys, where he embraced diving at a young age. His expertise extended to working for underwater construction firms and establishing various diving enterprises encompassing salvage operations, boat maintenance, and instructional services. He would be joined by Mike Young, a renowned cave diver who was in charge of leading the expedition. The first few days, Mike and Shane were charged with mapping the caves and fixing lines in place for the expedition. It was a very treacherous passage with a restriction at 140 feet that up until the day prior, only Mike had passed through. Shane had made his way through the day before, so they planned to have Shane follow Mike through to a predetermined depth and have him wait outside the next restriction. This leg of their journey was not too bad considering the depth, with the tunnel being about 6 feet wide and having decent visibility. Alas, they made it to the next restriction, and Mike gave Shane a hand signal to wait as the next restriction was extremely narrow. It didn't make sense for more than one person to go and retrieve the line. This passage was so restrictive and claustrophobic in nature, Mike literally had to pull himself through using his arms. Mike safely made it through the passage to the end of the line when a thought occurred. They had been shooting a documentary about the Blue Hole, and Shane had been wearing a camera, so he decided to head back and get the camera from Shane so he could film it. As Young recounted to investigators, he started to move a few feet back through the restriction and ran directly into Shane. Earlier, when Mike had made his way into the restriction, Shane went in right after him despite what they had planned. Mike signaled for Shane to turn back around, and Shane, starting to panic, motioned that he couldn't. He was stuck. Luckily, Mike managed to back himself out of the restriction while pulling Shane along through to the section where the end of the line was so he could get turned around. At this point, the passage was completely silted out, and Mike was following Shane through using the safety line. Young, attempting to navigate through zero visibility, felt Thompson suddenly tug on their safety line, losing hold of it in the process. Right then, Mike felt his heart start to race, but being an expert diver and knowing he had enough gear to last the whole day kept him from going into a panic. He took a few moments to settle himself and began feeling around for the line and making his way through the passage. In the murky darkness, while Mike sought the safety line, Shane's hand emerged from below. Mike could tell by his movement that Shane was in a full-blown panic. Mike grabbed a hold of Shane's arm to try and reassure him and started pulling him towards an opening he had found while feeling around. Shane followed the tug, but his movements were so frantic it actually led to both divers getting trapped, one on top of the other, in the confined passage. After some wiggling about, Mike managed to tuck his leg into a crevice that gave Shane just enough room to squeeze through. But with Shane's manic movements, he'd knocked off one of Mike's flippers and knocked a hose from his suit, which made Mike's suit begin filling with cold water. Mike waited a minute to collect himself after all that had happened and began feeling his way around again. He managed to recover his flipper while feeling around in the cloudy water and continued slipping through several small restrictions before getting to an area that had slightly better visibility. By a miracle, as he swam towards it, he spotted the safety line. As he grabbed a hold of it, he could feel the line still moving about. Shane was still making his way through the silted-out passage. As he continued to follow the line, it suddenly went limp, and he knew Shane had died. He found Shane not long after and started to take his gear off to return his body to the surface. He then realized that with his suit filled with cold water and still having hours of decompression time, this simply wasn't the time to recover Shane. He would have to come back. After making his way through the narrow passages and finally making it to the mouth of the cave, he signaled to the emergency divers in the group that Shane would not be coming back. With 2 hours of decompression time, his suit filled with cold water, the panic of earlier and the loss of Shane, it was a very somber experience waiting to return to the surface. Once Young made it back to the surface, he recounted the events to the police and the team. They eventually recovered Shane and looked at the camera footage to figure out exactly what happened. Based on the footage, it was determined that Shane had overloaded his rebreather system because of how panicked his breathing was. He had switched over to his emergency gas and burnt through that as well, but in his panic, he never switched back. The devastating incident led Young to adamantly declare the caves too perilous for future exploration, advocating for their permanent closure. In response to the tragedy, officials announced a halt to further exploration or surveying of the underwater cave system, securing the grate at the Blue Hole's base to prevent future access, a solemn conclusion to a heartbreaking chapter. We appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoy these true stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest grim tales. Share your own close calls in the comments below, and remember, true tales can be truly twisted. Until next time, stay curious.